to AdventuReady. Today we're going to be working on the Honda Ruckus again, and by now you probably know there are two kinds of people. Those that got a ruckus and those that want a ruckus. What we're going to do today is we got some new springs for the front shock so it doesn't bottom out. We got off-road knobby tires. We ended up getting the Go Fast kit from the Ruck Shop. I've also got another seal. But this is going to have a CDI, and it's going to have a new Variator with new weights and then a new face. So this is going to probably maybe 8 or 9 miles per hour more with the Go Fast kit. We also got a rear shock. This is also from the Ruck Shop, and we'll replace it on the back, but it's a little bit stronger spring. We also have a new rear fender, and what we're going to do is we're going to paint the front and rear fender and some of the other plastics with this satin Rust-Oleum, and the color is Hunt Club Green, and it says that it binds to plastic. We'll see. We're also going to take off the other pieces of plastic like on the exhaust, and we're going to paint all the plastics green. And without further ado, let's jump right in. So we're going to start with just taking off any of the plastic covers. So we're going to scuff these down with a little bit of Scotch-Brite, and then we're going to use some rubbing alcohol on it, and then we're just going to spray paint them. Now I'll take the plastic off the muffler. Put a little plastic piece to paint. Clean that off. I noticed I was low on coolant here, and I had a hairline crack in it. So I went to push on it to kind of smooth it back out, and I basically punched a big hole in it. So I'm going to have to get a new coolant reservoir. And while we're back here, I'll go ahead and put the brake shoes on this. Now we're going to take the front wheel off with a 17 millimeter and a 12 millimeter on the back side. Make sure this is on reverse. Now remember we had the spacer right here. You see there's a spacer right here to hang on to also. So pull the axle bolt out, hang on to the spacer, and we can disconnect the brake. Just pull the brake out. Still looks good. Got our wheel free. We're going to replace that with this knobby. Now we're going to take the front fender off, and actually we're going to take the front shocks off also. So let's go ahead and use a 12 millimeter on these. See here, has this bracket. I'm going to leave it on here. So it's holding the brake lines. Now we're going to pull these front shocks out. You can just pull straight down. Here's one shock. And there's actually those seals don't look very good, but there's a seal. And then there's a little snap ring. We're going to pull this apart, put a bunch of grease on these springs, and pop these springs in. Let's do the other side. Now there should be another screw on here somewhere that holds on this fender. Yep, there's 2 on the bottom. Nope, they're a 10. Just a little 10 millimeter screw holding the actual front fender on. These little holes. The bottom of the front fender. The screws just go up through it, and then up it. So after wrestling with these for a little while, I decided to just take them to a shop, and they mounted the knobby tires for $50. It was really hard to break that bead, such a small tire. So just paid the shop, and I'm happy with the result. So this is the NCY CDI box. It comes with this little red box. It comes with this black cable, and it comes with this other set of cables. And it's completely plug and play. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, I'm going to set this down. This first cable, you're going to connect your negative to the negative terminal of the battery. Then we're going to bring this around the other side here, and we're going to connect to the CDI box. But before we do that, we need to find this cable right here. And if you come all the way up, you can trace this up to the right control. It's basically this wire right here So this is really hard to find because it's tucked all behind this stuff. You have to just wedge your fingers in there and disconnect these two things. They're all tucked in. We're going to put something in line to splice it. So let's grab that other box. So the one that's connected to the ground, this is going to go between that one on the right handle control. So we're going to start here. We're going to grab the bottom one, the male part, put it to the female, and just, it clicks in. And then this one goes in the top. They really made this kit simple. And that's going to click in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, this is our CDI box. Let's go ahead and just connect this, just so it's already done. So there should be 6 pins. You can even see the colors line up. So put those together. Okay, we're going to tuck our little box in here. And we'll zip tie that in a minute, but just for now, we're just going to show where this is going to go. This red right here is going to sit open. The one with the blue on it is going to go to the blue right here. So this blue wire right here, we're going to connect that blue wire. So just kind of look into here. That's blue, that's blue. Line them up. And slide them together so they click. This red stays open. Now we need to find this red and green. This is going to be really tight, so we're going to have to find a way to connect those. We're going to send this under this plastic, and I've already taken off my seat and all those other things. And we come down here to the coil. The coil has this black boot on it. We're basically going to put these in between that. So this is going to go on the coil like this. It's just going to snap on. Click. And then the yellow wire goes down into the boot. So it kind of takes the place. It goes in between those. Put the blade in just like that. And that should be it. These are the MNNTHBX springs. They're 50% stiffer than the stock Ruckus springs. We're going to put them in instead. So you're going to need safety glasses. You're going to need snap ring pliers, some kind of a little flathead screwdriver. And then when we put this back together, you'll probably want a bigger screwdriver and a hammer. And then you're going to need grease. This is not the best grease. You're probably going to want a waterproof grease, but this is acceptable, so I'm going to use it. So you use your snap ring tool. You do like this, and you squeeze them together. And then squeeze them together, and it comes out. And then you pull that off. And you take this inside part out. And the big spring is down in here. I still need to get that out. It's all rusted in. And then you have this stopper. It sits on that spring like this. And then you have your little spring. And then you have this piece right here. So we're going to take these apart, clean them up with grease, and then we're going to replace this big spring, the spring that's down in there. See how we greased it up? So the way this snap ring works, when you pull, you're actually squeezing it in because there's a lip on the inside of this pipe, and you need to actually get it outside of that lip. So you've got to squeeze this in to free that up. And when you do, there's going to be this spring down in the bottom, and then there's this part here. I think this is called the stanchion. It has this rubbery thing on the end, and then there's a little stopper, little spring, that, and then you push that down in there, and to re-put it in there, you put your snap ring, and it has to actually then squeeze in, get under that lip, and then it's sealed up. And once the snap ring is in, you can put the little seal back on. Make sure you go the right direction though, so that this part comes up. I put a little bit of fresh grease on this, slide this down, and then just pop it in. There we go. Fresh. So you can see here the lip that the snap ring goes in. It was really hard to see on the other one, but this one's very clear to see. And this one has a bump stop at the bottom. Only one side has a bump stop, and this goes in the bottom, and then the spring sits on this. And this spring wasn't nearly as rusty. All right, so to install these LED bulbs, they're H4, and they just go right in. I'll show you on this one. As long as you line these little tabs up, the tabs line up, and it slides right in. It slides right in. And then you just close this little wire thing, And it goes under and grabs on. Just like that. It's just looped in. And one thing to note, just because your ignition is on, you won't have headlights until it's running, because it runs off the magneto. So don't think there's something wrong with your bulbs because you plugged them in and they didn't work, but the key was on. When you put the new bulbs in, then you're going to want to put the boot back on. One thing to note about this, there's a top side. It has a little arrow right there. It actually says top, and it has these weep holes in the bottom that lets moisture fall out at the bottom. And you can basically just put them right back over top of the outside of the bulb and then just move it around until it actually seats, and you don't actually have to cut your boot, which I kind of liked. Now you can see both of the new bulbs are installed, and the blinkers are going to be on top. So that means you're going to want the boots facing downward to let the weep holes be on the bottom to let water drain out. So we have a Stage 1 Go Fast kit from the Ruck Shop. It was like $250, and it comes with a new Variator. So I'm going to put a new pulley face on, and this on the inside is what actually grabs onto the starter when you kickstart it. And then inside of this, the way this slides, it has, this is called the boss part. This is where it slides on. And then the backing plate slides up and down and has all the little weights in it. We'll put those back in. But if you look, it has these guides, these plastic guides. And when the face is up like this, you'll want the skinny end on the bottom and the thick end on top. And you'll want it to actually slide up and down inside this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take off the CVT cover, and we're going to replace these parts. We're going to replace the belt. We're also going to Loctite those screws. All right, so we're going to take off the 8mm screws that are all around it. And you have to take the 10mm screw all the way out to get the kickstart off. Okay, so take that all the way out. Make sure you put it where you can find it. We're going to slide this off. So this has a little snap ring. You'll need a snap ring tool. When you squeeze it in, it pulls the snap ring out. There we have it. Now there's going to be a seal all the way around this, and it might come off. You can just put it right back in though. So this is the CVT, the continuously variable transmission. You can see the belt. This thing is the Variator. This is the clutch. And then if you look in here, this is the back side of the Kickstarter. And it's a spring-loaded mechanism. And it's not really springing back right. So we're going to take brake cleaner and clean this whole thing out, and then take all that out and replace the parts. So I used brake cleaner and a rag, and I just kind of cleaned out how dirty this was. Okay, so we're just going to take this part off the spring. What I did is I greased this in that little groove. I put grease there. Also put grease down where this bushing is. I put grease around that bushing. And I cleaned off this plastic ring. So it goes bushing, plastic ring, and then you put your spring in. And you put your spring in with this part coiled up. So that's going to hook around there. Then that spring is going to catch on this gear. Make sure you put your spline down and this metal piece against that metal piece. And you're going to bring your spring to hook right there. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that the spring is down in that groove. And now once I see that it is, I'm going to loop around and connect the rest of the spring. Put this down in the little U-shaped slot. The key is making sure the spring stays in the groove down there when you have your spline all the way pushed in. If the spline is, because you're laying on the table and you push it down, it kicks the spring out. It makes that spring jump out of the place where it's supposed to be. So it should look like this when it's all assembled, and then it's going to work better. So we're going to take a 17mm on the impact wrench and take off the Variator. There we go. And then, okay, this is going to be a 9/16 for the clutch. Okay, So on this face, this is a new one. Sometimes on the old ones, you'll get a groove and the belt will only come up to the groove and it'll keep your speed down. So let's take this old one off and see what it looks like. Remember, there's two washers in here too. There's a little washer and then there's a big washer. To get this belt off, you can take the clutch face off too also. Here's the clutch. We'll clean that out with brake cleaner. You just want to pinch it like this and then pull it. So you can pinch it, it frees up a little space. And you can pull this out with the bushing. We're going to replace that. So we're going to replace this belt also. All right, I always wear a respirator when I'm doing brake cleaner, so it's pretty nasty. But I'm just going to clean this out. But before we do, let's go ahead and take the Variator out. It has a bushing, and it has a backing plate. Try to pull them all out together. All the little weights are going to fall out. So I cleaned that out, and now I'm going to reassemble it. That's easier. Perfect. We're going to pinch the belt, get it up over that. This is a stock Honda brand Bando belt. Got it. Got it. Perfect. And now for the face. Remember, there's two washers that have to go on there. And this washer has little nubs on the outside. Like that. And then a nut. And we're going to use a little Loctite first. Put the nut back on. That should be good. All right, we should be ready now to put the cover back on. Remember, we got the crank Kickstarter back together. Now, don't forget, we had a washer and a lock snap ring. Kickstarter back on. And one more thing is you have to get a 10mm wrench, put your crank back on, about like that. Slide it on. And then there'll be a hole, you'll actually see a groove for the bolt to go through, and then tighten it down. At 11:15, I was putting the exhaust back on. I was using a torque wrench at like 9 foot-pounds, and I was tightening one of the exhaust studs, and it just broke off. So this is me shopping for exhaust studs. I ended up finding one that would work at O'Reilly's. I had to put some spacers in it, but got it done, and here's how I got that old broken one out. So I used PB Blaster, and I got that to get the rust out of it. Then I let that soak for a while, and I put a MAP torch on it, and I heated it all up. And then I got the vice grips, I grabbed onto it, and eventually twisted it out. Yes. So we got new exhaust studs. Here's the old one. It's shorter, but it should be all right. So we're going to put some of this anti-seize on it and put the exhaust on. The key is to use two nuts. You put one on, and then you lock it to the other one, and then you can tighten it in. That's the same way I got the other one off on the left side, because I actually replaced both of those exhaust studs. So with two nuts, it worked great. This is a Rust-Oleum satin, and it says that it's paint and primer. That's the 2X. And they say that it sticks to plastic, so we'll see how well it adheres. But this is just a speed-up version of me putting a second coat on it, and it sprayed on well. It's not perfect, but I think it's going to be good enough for what we're doing. Well, at the end of another week, I hate to disappoint you, but it's going to have to be continued. We did get the knobby tires on. We got all of the plastics painted with 3 coats. We got the Go Fast kit with the CDI and the new transmission. So next week, we're going to tune the CVT so it's fast, and we're going to put on all the plastics, and we're going to button this up and get the blinkers working. We're going to need a resistor between those blinkers because they're LED as opposed to the incandescent, or they need more current. And finally, we're going to have our word of encouragement. So today's word of encouragement comes from Proverbs 3:5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. So what that means is you trust in God. If you trust him, you don't have to figure it out. You just have to acknowledge him, and he said he will work it out for you. That's a pretty awesome deal. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time.